Previously, my role necessitated working late evenings, weekends, and occasionally traveling for business. Stacy appeared to have no reservations regarding this aspect of my job. She was employed during the early years of our marriage, but opted to become a stay-at-home mother following the birth of our son Jason. We resided in an attractive home within a reputable neighborhood, boasting top-notch schools and amiable neighbors. At that point, aside from my work commitments, everything seemed perfect. I was blessed with a loving wife, a burgeoning family, and a career that was both fulfilling and supportive of them. Challenges emerged with the arrival of our second child. Conceiving Jason was difficult, and tests revealed that I had a low sperm count. Despite this, we were informed that having more children was still possible, albeit with more effort. This was acceptable, as Stacy and I shared a vibrant and enjoyable sex life. Surprisingly, 3 years after Jason, we welcomed Michelle, which was an unforeseen yet joyful event. After her arrival, we decided against having more children, with Stacy pointing out the demands of parenting alone. Over the years, like any couple, we faced some difficulties and disagreements, but always managed to resolve them through discussion. At one point, Stacy had some health concerns and consulted a specialist. Fortunately, it was minor, though it temporarily halted our sexual activities. Despite my inquiries, she remained vague about the specifics, assuring me there was no need for concern. In hindsight, I possibly should have been more vigilant at that time. I continue to work extended hours, but the effort is beginning to show results as I've been advancing in my career every 3 to 4 years. I'm on track to become the director of manufacturing at my firm within the next year or two, which should decrease my hours and increase my time at home. Jason is on the verge of finishing high school, and Michelle is just starting. Both children are naturally sporty, a trait I believe they got from me. Jason excels in his school's baseball team, and Michelle is enthusiastic about soccer and also participates in softball. They are both studious and socially popular, with Jason experiencing several relationships and Michelle just entering the dating scene, which I find a bit nerve-wracking. With Jason soon heading to college and Michelle capable of being more independent, Stacy considered returning to work. It was a logical suggestion, which I supported as his smartphone. I'll call her now since she's at home and doesn't start until 8 a.m. He made the call, and I listened to his half of the conversation, then he hung up. She said she would send her schedule for the next month via fax later that morning. How was that? He inquired, smiling widely. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Thanks, Sam, and give my regards to your wonderful wife too, I responded. About an hour later, I received Stacy's work schedule and saw she was only working 10 to 12 hours a week. Previously, she had asserted that she worked between 18 to 25 hours. Why was she misleading me? A cold feeling washed over me as I pondered potential reasons. There was no opportunity to dwell on my wife's behavior, given my day was packed with meetings. At work, my focus faltered. I frequently found myself lost in thought, trying to deduce what my wife was up to. Post the last meeting, I secluded myself in my office, scrutinized her timetable, and even created a spreadsheet which I uploaded to my iPhone. What activities occupied her time when not working? I was determined to find out, so I explored online for ways to monitor her whereabouts. I quickly assembled a list of suitable tracking devices and some extra handy items. To keep the purchases off our financial statements, I acquired a cash-funded prepaid debit card on my way home. The following day, I ordered everything needed and arranged delivery to my office. It would take several days for delivery, during which I strategized my actions should I discover the worst. At my desk, I listed plausible motives for her dishonesty about her work hours, suspecting infidelity as a primary cause. If this suspicion held, it seriously threatened our marriage, though it was tough to believe she could be disloyal. Our marriage appeared sound, or so I believed. Although our physical intimacy had diminished, we still shared intimate moments 2 to 3 times a week. Granted, it might have grown a bit routine or predictable, but could that really justify her disloyalty? By next week, the ordered items had arrived at my office. All that remained was their setup. I bought a tracker for her vehicle, controllable via my iPhone or iPad, to keep tabs on her locations. I also obtained several voice-activated recorders and a few spy cameras for our bedroom, along with a top-notch digital camera with a high-powered zoom. Reflecting on the need for these devices deeply saddened me. It indicated a severe turning point in our marriage. I was on the verge of beginning surveillance on my wife to verify if she was engaging in an affair. I desperately hoped my doubts were unfounded, yet the pervasive suspicion drove me to uncover the truth. The next morning, I woke up slightly earlier and installed the voice recorder and tracker in her car. Later, at work, I reviewed her work calendar to check her schedule. She was off today, but I chose to call her directly. I swiftly dialed her number from my office phone and greeted her. "Hi, On. I just got to work but forgot to ask if you were working today." "Oh, yes I am, but I'll be back before you," she answered, clearly fibbing again. "Okay, just wanted to check." "Have a good day at work." "Love you," I replied, though it was hard to say the words. With the tracker in her vehicle, I could follow her movements. My plan was to install the spy cameras and other recorders later to see if she brought someone home. This thought ignited an anger in me like never before. She had to be held accountable for her betrayal of me and our children. Throughout the morning, I occasionally checked my iPad to track her departure from the house. It wasn't until about 10 a.m. that I noticed she had left. Then I felt it was time to install the remaining devices. I told my executive assistant that I needed to go home for a few hours and would return after lunch. Shortly, I was arranging the devices in our bedroom, ensuring they were well concealed and functional. After setting everything up, I decided to verify Stacy's location. I saw on my iPod that she was at the shopping center. Maybe she did need to work after all. I resolved to make another unexpected visit. Upon reaching the mall, I noticed her car was parked unusually far from her workplace's entrance. I took out the newly acquired digital camera and started taking pictures. I positioned my vehicle near the store and went straight to the jewelry area. There, I met the same sales associate who had helped me before. "Hello, is Stacy here today?" I inquired. "I'm sorry, sir, but she left her position last week. She said it was interfering with her personal affairs," she replied. "Can I help you with anything else?" she continued, offering a smile. "Oh, no, thank you," I answered, trying to hide my irritation. If Stacy had been there at that moment, I may have confronted her. I suddenly realized this deceit had been going on for some time, yet I was unsure of how long or who else was involved. I decided to find out the truth and address Stacy and her clandestine associate. Opting not. To go back to work, I found a location in the parking lot where I could observe her car unobserved. Using the camera's zoom feature, I could keep a covert watch and, if needed, capture the happenings. It was almost 2 p.m. when a car stopped next to hers. I watched as she got out of the passenger side, leaned in, exchanged a few words, and then smiled, a reaction that angered me. I took several pictures of her and the car she exited. While the driver remained unseen, I noted that the car had dealer plates. With only a handful of car dealerships nearby, tracing the vehicle seemed doable. Presuming she had likely gone home by then, I sat contemplating my observations and decided to drive by a few dealerships to try to spot the car. As I got closer, I observed the promotional signs and flags advertising significant discounts or new models. Although my intent wasn't to purchase a new car, my priority was to identify the man my wife was seeing. I visited several dealerships but did not locate the car. I chose not to leave my car to avoid alerting the deceitful individual. I then recognized that I still lacked concrete proof of their liaison. I knew I had to catch them together, but that problem would need to wait. I was preparing for a 3-day business meeting to see a client the next week and needed to focus. I arrived home at the usual time. Everything appeared normal. Informing my wife about the trip, I lied again. "Sorry, dear, but they've decided to extend our stay for the whole week. I'll be back by Saturday afternoon," I stated, hoping it wouldn't disrupt her plans. "No, that will be okay," she responded with a smile, which made me suspect she had arrangements with her lover. I aimed to catch them and resolve the matter for good. I went to bed and pretended to sleep while my thoughts grappled with the issue. The next morning, as I drove to work, I put the matter aside and concentrated on my responsibilities. The week flew by, and I was set to leave on Sunday afternoon. My son volunteered to drive me to the airport, and as we traveled, I felt he was troubled. He hesitated, then revealed, "Dad, I'm not sure how to say this, but I think you should know Mum was struggling to find the words, so I helped her. She admitted she was involved in an affair." "Yes, I'm aware. Is that what you were trying to tell me?" He looked at me, a mix of shock and sorrow in his eyes. "Are you going to leave her?" "I haven't made up my mind yet. How did you find out she was seeing someone else a few weeks earlier? My baseball practice was cancelled due to rain, and I got home several hours early. The heavy rain meant they didn't hear me enter, but I overheard them. I walked into your bedroom and saw them together. I was so stunned, I didn't know what to do. So I went to a friend's house and came back a few hours later. He had gone, and it looked like Mum had taken a shower. Tears were in his eyes as he shared this. God, I wanted to hurt her then. Does Michelle know? He shook his head. No, I don't think so, and I definitely won't tell her. You know her temper good, because I want to preserve our marriage and family. Just act normal around your mum and sister, and if you need someone to talk to, call me. We reached the airport, and I hugged my son. Stay strong, okay? Take care of Michelle. Call me if you need anything. Then I joined my colleagues. We checked in, and soon boarded our flight. The trip was fruitful. We secured a significant contract with a new client after days of discussions and negotiations. We were celebrating with a late lunch on the last day when I received an urgent call from Jason. You need to come home now. His tone was filled with urgency. What's the issue? What occurred now? My concern grew. It's Michelle. She found out about Mum's affair, and it did not end well. You need to come home. Is she hurt? What a gate. What occurred? He offered no further details, merely insisting I return home immediately. I excused myself, explaining that a family crisis had arisen, and I checked out of the hotel. At the airport, I managed to get on the next flight. Although it was just a 2-hour flight, it seemed to drag on. Jason was waiting for me when I landed. All right, what exactly went down? How did Michelle discover Mum's affair? Jason's expression mirrored mine. She took control of the situation. Her softball practice was cancelled, and she returned home early. She caught them together in bed, just as I had. Unlike me, she seized her softball bat and struck him. My gaze fixed on Jason in shock, yet he was openly smiling. He'll be out of commission for a while, and I doubt he'll engage in intercourse again soon. She did what I uttered in astonishment. According to Michelle's account before her arrest, they were deeply involved when she entered. She was as shocked as I, but also enraged, so she went to her room, retrieved her bat, and commenced her attack. Feeling her actions were sufficient, she then dialed 911, alleging she had intercepted an assailant harming her mother and requested immediate police and paramedic dispatch. I had just gotten home by that point and could hear the man's agonized cries from upstairs. Upon their arrival, the police questioned Mum, Michelle, and this man, Kevin. Michelle upheld her assertion that since the man was not her father, it had to be an assault, thus she acted as she deemed necessary. Jason barely held back his amusement. This is no laughing matter, yet I found myself laughing. Upon entering home, I saw Stacy on the sofa appearing distressed. Approaching her, I embraced her. It's okay, sweetheart, it's okay, we'll handle it. I know this is extremely upsetting, but I'm sure a little reassurance will make things better. I exaggerated the details of the assault so she wouldn't suspect my awareness of the actual situation. She shuddered, oh God, and then she began crying. I turned to Jason. Where's Michelle now? She's still detained at the station. I was uncertain of our next steps. I rose, took out my mobile, and called our family lawyer. I briefed him on the situation. I asked if he could recommend a dependable attorney for the case. He said their firm had someone available who would meet me at the station within an hour. Then I took Jason aside to discuss privately so Stacy wouldn't overhear. I don't want your mum to know we know about her affair. As far as anyone is concerned, Michelle was confronting a criminal. All right, he nodded. Got it. You should stay here and comfort her. I'll go get Michelle and bring her back. I was at the station speaking with the reception officer and awaiting the lawyer. He soon arrived, dressed sharply in his suit and tie. We set about securing Michelle's release. From what was conveyed to me, Kevin was considering pressing assault charges against Michelle. I inquired whether my spouse planned to press assault charges against Kevin. I was told no. I realized I had put her in a tough position. If she didn't press charges, she would have to admit to the affair, risking Michelle's incarceration. If she did press charges, Kevin might assert they were romantically involved, potentially resulting in Michelle's imprisonment anyway. I felt mixed emotions about Michelle. I was proud of her for trying to protect her mother from what she perceived as an assault and saddened by her discovery of the affair. At that moment, I knew our marriage was doomed. It took a few hours, but eventually Michelle was released to me with an obligation to appear in court soon. Holding my daughter close as she cried, I reassured her, I'm sorry, honey, but you did the right thing. She wept. It's okay, Dad. I had to stop him. I'm so proud of you. I was crying now. Can we go home now? Of course, honey, of course. Once home, Jason enveloped Michelle in a big embrace as she walked in. How do you feel? She sniffled. Better now that I'm back. I glanced around the living room. Where's your mum? She's gone to rest. It's tough when you separate from her. Sorry, can I stay with you guys? Jason and I observed Michelle. Sweetheart, who told you I was separating from your mum? I just thought so since she's been disloyal. Jason and I stared at her. What? I overheard them before I challenged him, but yeah, and I doubt he'll be able to be intimate anytime soon, if at all. She grinned. I couldn't help but laugh. I need to talk to your mum first, so let's not talk about separating yet. Why don't you both head to bed? It's been a long day for all of us. I went upstairs and saw Stacy face down on our bed, deep in sleep. I took some clothes and moved to the guest room. It was late, and I decided not to disturb her with her side of the story. Sleep was elusive, but finally I fell asleep. The next morning, I awoke at 10 a.m., feeling revitalized, and went downstairs for coffee. Jason and Michelle were at the kitchen table talking. They stood up to hug me as I approached. Jason said, "You look terrible, Dad. Are you all right?" I nodded. "Yes, just worn out." "Is your mum?" Awake, they both shook their heads. Michelle added, "Not yet. What's going to happen now? Do I have to go to prison?" "I'd rather be in prison than live with her." "Michelle, you don't mean that. Regardless of what, your mother loves you, despite what she's done to our marriage." "I'll talk to her and see what we can figure out." I'm not very optimistic, though. Suddenly, Stacy appeared at the doorway. "Please, please give me another chance," she sobbed. "I don't want to lose you or our family. Can we talk? Can we talk? Can we try to resolve things?" I looked at her, and the children glared at her. Stacy and I had to talk, but not in front of the kids. So I gave Jason some money and said, "Why don't you and Michelle go watch a movie, then get some pizza?" "All right," they both agreed as they departed. "Love you, Dad," they expressed, yet they remained cold toward Stacy, and she felt it. Once they left, Stacy collapsed into a chair. "They hate me. My own children hate me." "Well, what did?" "You expect. You were with someone else, and they discovered it. So what now? I hear Kevin wants to sue Michelle. If that happens, I'll ensure this scandal gets media coverage. You better speak to your ex." "Oh, and if he refuses, you tell him you'll file assault charges against him." "Got it." She nodded and started to cry again. "What about us, Chris? What about our marriage?" "I'm meeting with a divorce lawyer next week." "You should too. As far as our marriage goes, it was over years ago. I'll take full custody of the kids because, frankly, Michelle might attack you with a baseball bat while you sleep." "Do you really want to live in fear of your own children? They don't love you as much after learning about you and Kevin. Look, it's going to be difficult no matter how we handle it. I regret saying this, but you should consult a lawyer to see your options now. Try to be fair, but you hurt me. And the children. And that's not easily forgiven." She sobbed again. "Chris, I don't want a divorce. I want our family back. Please help me. You didn't just betray me, you betrayed our entire family. The kids want nothing to do with you." "You really screwed up, Stacy, and I'm not sure I want to keep this marriage. Please tell me what I can do to maintain our family together. I'm so sorry." She wept even more. "It would be beneficial for us to visit Kevin together and convince him to dismiss the charges against Michelle. Afterwards, we should explore the reasons behind your actions and determine whether our marriage is salvageable. I'm making no guarantees. If you're prepared to be transparent and truthful, there could be a possibility for us." I merely told her what she needed to hear to get the charges against Michelle dropped. "I had no intention of remaining married to someone unfaithful. I can meet with Kevin by myself. There's no need for you to be there," she whispered. "This matter concerns our daughter, and as her father, I insist on accompanying you. Do you understand?" She acquiesced, her head lowered in apparent resignation. Shortly after, we were en route to the hospital to meet with Kevin. I anticipated a difficult conversation. Upon entering his room, I noted his legs elevated with ropes, his knees encased in bandages, and one arm in a cast, probably a result of defending against Michelle's attacks. A smile crossed my face as I contemplated getting her a car for her next birthday. Despite her being 2 years shy of driving age, Kevin saw us come in. He seemed heavily sedated, likely from his pain medication. I hope that wears off soon. Ah, the devoted couple. Come in and see the damage she caused. He invited calmly, his voice tinged with a drugged haze. Please, Kevin, we're just here to talk. It doesn't have to get nasty, Stacy implored, her voice trembling. She seemed nervous, but the reason eluded me until he disclosed, I told you to end the pregnancy 14 years ago, but you chose to have another child, even though he wasn't the father Kevin spat. I looked at Stacy confused. What is he saying? What does he mean Michelle isn't mine? He's just rambling because he's on medication. Just ignore everything he's saying, she attempted to reassure me, her body shaking. Oh, really? Well, a DNA test should confirm without a doubt that she is indeed my daughter. Perhaps I should get one for Jason as well to be sure he's mine too. What do? You think, dear, my fury was now more palpable than ever. Stacy ran out of the room in tears. I remained standing, then turned to face Kevin once more, staring him down. Here's what you're going to do first. Drop the charges against Michelle second. Stay away from my family. As for Stacy, continue your affair. She will no longer be my wife soon. Got it? You both may now enjoy all the liberty you desire. He started to cry. That decision ensured I would never be truly free again. Yes, I'm buying her a car for her next birthday, I confronted him. Is she your daughter? He nodded, unable to speak. Then I pressed, so you and my wife have been in this affair for the last 15 years, he nodded again. It was a severe hit to my pride, and I was relieved she wasn't present, or I might have lashed out at her. I sat down, deep in thought, overwhelmed by my own gullibility. Then it dawned on me about her past issues, those she had never explained. Overcome with a grave suspicion, I confronted Kevin. That health problem she had a few years ago, was that another terminated pregnancy? He nodded. I threatened to reveal that neither Michelle nor the last child were yours if she didn't terminate, he admitted. Crushed, I covered my face with my hands and sobbed. After regaining my composure, I left Kevin's room. In the waiting area, I spotted Stacy gazing out the window. When she noticed me, she joined me as we walked to our car. Once inside, we sat in silence until she tried to speak. I know you might hate me, but it's not as it appears, she started. I cut her off sharply. If you say it was merely a brief affair, you'll end up alongside Kevin. When were you planning to inform me about the abortion? When were you going to confess that Michelle isn't my daughter? Her tears resumed, yet I felt nothing. Here's the strategy, and if you disagree, it will trigger a tempest that will engulf you. Understood, she nodded. First, our marriage concludes tonight, and you'll leave immediately. You are henceforth prohibited from entering our home again. Secondly, I will have full custody of the children. You might be granted visitation rights, but that will depend on their willingness. If they decline your visit, that decision is absolute. Thirdly, if you ever disclose to Michelle that I am not her biological father, I will expose your affair and your concealed abortion to everyone. I also heard you quit your job to be with Kevin Moore. Is that right? She clutched, her head overwhelmed by the brutal truth. Stacy, I never want to see you again, and keep your distance from my children. Understand, her eyes welled up with tears, but they are also my children. Not anymore. They'll see you only if they choose to, though that seems improbable. When we get back, you need to gather your belongings and go. She continued to weep. Where should I go? Contact your parents, a friend, maybe stay with Kevin, pitch a tent in the park, or go to hell. For all I care, we returned to my place. As I parked in the driveway, we sat silently for a few moments. Eventually, I broke the quiet. Why, Stacy, wasn't our family enough for you? Our nice house, was it the intimacy? She remained silent. To me, he was just good in bed. Then he started blackmailing me after Michelle was born. I do love you. Is there a chance we could try again? I yelled. 15 years, Stacy. You were unfaithful for 15 years, and now you want to make amends. Leave my house immediately. I exited the vehicle and stormed inside. Shortly thereafter, she entered and started packing. Within an hour, her bags and several boxes were ready. She headed out, loaded her car, and then returned. I'll need to return for the rest of my things. I'll be at my parents'. Can I call to arrange a pickup time? I nodded. You destroyed something wonderful, Stacy. I hope you realize that she just stared at me and then departed. About 2 hours later, the children came home and looked puzzled. Jason inquired, "Where's Mum? She no longer lives here," I responded. "I've gained custody, and she might visit if you're willing to see her. Sorry guys, our marriage was irreparable. Michelle hugged me. Thanks Dad, we love you. Are you okay? Jason questioned. Not yet, but I will be. With you two by my side, I hugged them tighter. 8 years later, Michelle, Jason, and I had moved on from Stacy's actions. The children hardly saw her, allowing only brief visits on alternate weekends, which often coincided with their busy schedules. I attempted to facilitate their meetings, but once Jason hardened his stance, Michelle did likewise, deeply hurting Stacy. This was the first time in a while I felt sympathy for her. After a serious discussion with Kevin about dropping potential assault charges against Michelle in exchange for not pressing rape charges against him, he's been using a cane. Rumor has it his sexual function was impaired, even with medical aid, to no avail. On Michelle's insistence, a paternity test confirmed she is indeed my child. We embraced, relieved by the news. Now I ponder whether the aborted child was also mine, a question that will linger for life. Stacy stayed with her parents, initially secured a job, and eventually moved out of state, losing contact. She still sends the kids cards for birthdays and holidays, but they return them unopened. Jason won a baseball scholarship to a prominent university, and Michelle is studying nursing. They are both successful in their studies and personal lives. Jason is steady with his girlfriend, while Michelle seeks someone like me, though I believe she deserves better. It took years, but I eventually began dating a wonderful woman. We see each other regularly. I'm in no rush to remarry. The pain remains, but it diminishes each day. Thank God for my children. Second story, should I stay or should I go? Shortly after our marriage began, within 3 months, I found out my husband had rekindled a friendship with an old acquaintance. Let me tell you our story. We met at the ages of 44 and 51, respectively. Both of us had weathered the ups and downs of previous marriages and encountered many challenges in earlier relationships. Early in our courtship, as we delved into our individual histories, we shared tales of mistakes, grief, and the pain of being deceived, something both of us had experienced several times. We embarked on this relationship seeking simplicity, honesty, and clarity, aiming to steer clear of unnecessary drama and complications. Personally, I shun playing psychological games and tests in relationships. With me, what you see is exactly what you get. I am committed to treating people the way I want to be treated, even though I acknowledge my flaws as a person prone to chaos and at times challenging. I value my direct approach. Throughout 5 years together, we avoided any major arguments. We experienced minor disputes, but never intense conflicts or genuine anger. Our time together was characterized by enjoyment, companionship, and the zeal typical of romantic partners. I handled all domestic tasks, cooking, cleaning, and shopping, because I take pleasure in caring for those I love. He, in turn, was responsible for the majority of our financial expenses. Despite my hesitations, he was persistent about us marrying, continuing his insistence even when I was reluctant. Notably, our intimate relationship seemed vibrant and satisfying, or so I believed. However, as our first year of marriage unfolded, he started to become distant, avoiding quality time together. His manner became more aloof, occasionally surly or outright disrespectful. I was puzzled by his obsession with his phone, which became especially noticeable during our first anniversary dinner, as he barely looked up. 2 months past our anniversary, I inadvertently discovered incriminating evidence on his phone. He had requested a photo from her, to which she had responded by bending over at her desk, pulling her pants down to her knees in a pose similar to a dog squatting. His response was aggressive, filled with vulgar affirmations of his enthusiasm for intimate moments with her. Their connection as casual partners dated back 20 years, during which time she was already married, even at the start of their relationship, and she remains married to the same man. A few months after our anniversary, my husband seemingly innocuously reached out to her with a business-related question, which quickly escalated into the exchange of explicit images. This led to a 6-month affair, of which I was completely unaware until I exposed their secret liaison. The affair concluded only because I caught them together. Their plans had included travel, making videos, and engaging in various activities. He openly praised her physical attributes, despite describing her as having a flat rear and saggy breasts, with no eyebrows and dull eyes. While I do not mean to boast, he has described me as unattractive, even though I am 7 years older and maintain a reluctance extends to oral sex, a favor he seems more willing to offer her, discussing desires for explicit acts in the dark and a rapid conclusion, followed by a casual inquiry about whether I was satisfied. He admitted he liked her because she was discreet, able to open up while remaining silent. He could meet with her unnoticed in public, yet she was prepared to rendezvous with him against his truck or a random dumpster, then simply continue her day. Now, he insists it was a mistake and claims it won't happen again. He expresses a desire to remain married to me, yet avoids detailing what that would entail. According to him, revisiting the affair was an attempt to recapture the carefree days of their initial romance 2 decades earlier. What strikes me as ironic is how he used to react to stories of women who cheated on him. He was appalled, hurling terrible insults and unable to believe that someone could betray him. Now, I am expected to believe it's finished and to move on. He insists, "But I love you. I never intended to leave you," conveniently overlooking the times he evidently contemplated leaving me for her for moments of thrill near a dumpster. He believed he could enjoy himself without my finding out or being harmed, leaving me to question when I ceased to be enjoyable. If I hadn't discovered the affair, he would have been content to continue the deception. I am overwhelmed with disgust and self-loathing, yet I deeply adore him. I feel detached, yearning for an escape but unwilling to harm myself. I am conflicted between affection and bitterness toward him, contemplating retaliation through unfaithfulness, but hesitant to stoop so low. I recognize the necessity for professional help and desire a dependable counselor, but financial constraints seem to make this unattainable. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Cheating Stories. If these narratives moved you, hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell. Don't miss the forthcoming intense ride of relationship dramas. Your support means everything, and we look forward to delivering more captivating tales to you. Until next time, keep in mind that every relationship tells a unique story. See you soon.